Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we are going to be talking about Ripple and XRP, as well as the vast majority of crypto and finance. And with that being said, I hope that you are all having a beautiful day or a beautiful night wherever you guys are out there in the world. So all eyes are still on the BRICS as they do continue to expand. And now we have mainstream media finally putting a spotlight on the big concern, which is, of course, the BRICS targeting the G7. So we have BRICS nations to see the highest surge in millionaire count over the next decade, exceeding the rise in G7 countries. Now, why is this? What's actually going on? Well, it's the fact that as we look at what the BRICS are doing, they are ditching the US dollar. They are trying to actually move forward economically and usher into a new age of finance. And this is a new age of finance that is not heavily dominated by a reserve currency that is massively printed and ultimately affecting these nations' economies. And I do think that at this point in time, we need to be aware of the fact that the G7 are losing, especially to what the BRICS are doing. But also, if you look at every single major nation in the BRICS, guess what they are all doing as well? They are all pushing for new technologies. The B in BRICS, go look at Brazil. Go look at what Brazil has been doing in the last just 24 months alone. Look at the partnerships with Ripple, with major Brazil entities. Do I even need to mention Travelex? Beyond that, there's a ton of other great endeavors that Ripple does have with all of the other nations, including even Russia. If you go back in time, Russia, the Central Bank of Russia, was actually utilizing Ripple and even XRP in cross-border payment initiatives. Now, of course, that's pilots, but they did utilize the technology. They piloted it, and I'm sure that the end results were very, very efficient. When we look at what's going on, right? The world is changing. Technology is changing. And any nation not looking forward and not supporting innovation will soon fall greatly behind. This is also why I say, and I urge everyone, especially if you are in the US, to support those that are pro-innovation. But beyond this, right, we also have over here. So Michael Branch reposted this, and we have, it's no secret that the fast-growing BRICS has been exploring the idea of creating their own shared currency for quite some time now. But we're now hearing talks that the bloc has officially started working on it. And yes, they are starting work on their common currency. Now, everyone thinks that this is going to unseat the US dollar as the reserve currency, and that the overall reserve currency status is in question. Now, I've talked about it in the past as well, right? As we look at reserve currencies, do we really need one? The thing that is most disruptive about instant settlement achieved through DLT and blockchain-based technology is the fact that it completely defeats the purpose of a reserve currency. Most people are not aware of that. The only reason why we have a reserve currency is because we need a trusted currency that is going to maintain a stable value for 3 to 5 days while those settlements take place. Because again, we have to wait 3 to 5 days typically on a cross-border transaction to settle. And we need to make sure that whatever is the settlement currency of choice, which is the reserve currency, the US dollar, it needs to maintain a stable value and not lose a significant percentage of value during that time. That's the only main reason why we have a reserve currency. We need something that can be trusted for that process. But once you have instant settlement, now the entire question of a reserve currency comes up in question. And that's also why I do think that we are now starting to see a major pushback on the reserve currency status, and we have questioning of, do we even need a reserve currency? Can't we just push the boundaries and start looking into other technologies? And that's also why I do think that regulatory discussions and the race towards being a crypto hub is now more and more of a spotlight than ever before. I also think that this is why we are starting to see heavy buying of gold, which we will also talk about. But we have over here, almost nobody realizes how close the BRICS are to launching the technology for their new monetary system. The pieces have already been put in place at earlier BRICS meetings, such as the 2022 summit. Only the launch date is now required. And here we could actually see this was June of 2022, so almost 2 years ago now. And this was a major conference. A major development on the summit was creation of a new basket type reserve currency. The currency, which is challenging the US dollar, combines BRICS currencies and is backed by precious metals. Now, again, you could hint at the idea that this is also why we are starting to see heavy buying of precious metals, aka gold, because gold is the big spotlight one. But I also think that this is all hinting at a major transformation in the global monetary system, which we have been hinting at for a very long time, even on the channel. But I don't think that we need to hint at it anymore. I feel as though at this point, it's actually kind of clear. Whether or not the BRICS are trying to, kill the US dollar, or they are just innovating beyond the means of the traditional system, it's happening and it's coming. And it's something that I think that we need to put a spotlight on, because mainstream media, they're barely talking about this. They're not putting a big enough spotlight on what the BRICS are doing. Whether or not you think that the BRICS are just a joke, that they're not going to actually be able to unseat the US dollar, they're not a big challenge towards the US dollar, you seriously can't avoid the fact that they have made significant strides in just the last 6 months alone. We're not even talking about the last year. But also, we have Bank of America forecast future of US financial system. Now, mind you, if you go back to earlier in February this month, we had the CEO say that the company is preparing for potential US debt default. Now, within this one, we have a little bit of a glimpse back to that. So first and foremost, we have down here, so throughout 2023, there is no understating of the distress that the US economy faced, with inflation a problematic development and global concern directed towards the US dollar. American citizens faced increased uncertainty. Subsequently, although the situation is growing less dire, worry still abounds. Amid geopolitical pressure brought on by BRICS de-dollarization efforts, Bank of America CEO has recently forecast the future of the US financial system. Indeed, he expressed his opinion on the performance of the economy in the short term, ultimately addressing what the bank's strategists are set to expect this year. Down here we won't have a recession. This is what he's mentioning. Indeed, he identified a soft landing with strong consumer spending set to balance headwinds facing the economy. However, he also noted the uncertainty that could be facing the economy. There are 1,000 things out there that can lead to higher inflation, while other factors could undercut prices. Therefore, he assured that inflation not being decreased to the Fed target could have dire consequences. Now, I don't agree with this idea that we won't have a recession. I do believe that we will, at least within the next 2 years. That's my best guess. I think that a lot of the doomsday calls are a little bit too early right now, but I do think that 2025, at least in the second quarter into the end of 2025 into 2026, is the most that's the most, in my opinion, probable time frame for a recession to actually hit. But again, I could be wrong. But we have additionally, speaking to Fortune, he also discussed his concern for the United States' debt. Specifically, he discussed the $34 trillion deficit, saying the country can either admire the problem or do something about it. And, when we really look at the debt, at this point, we're not going to be able to go back to a sustainable path. We're not even talking about sustainability at this point. It's unsustainable. We're never going to go back in time and fix this. This is going to be a problem that continues to linger on, and it's going to continue until something breaks and things change drastically. And that's where we really kind of look at the big reset, the big change in scenery. Now, what is that change? Well, over here we actually have the former IMF chief economist warns that the US could face a serious fiscal crisis as the debt deficit is reaching new highs each day. The deficit is ballooning as the US is borrowing trillions of dollars and is unable to control the $34 trillion debt. Remember that Janet Yellen does want to print this to $50 trillion by 2030. I always remind you guys that because Again, we're not even talking about sustainability. We're not talking about, hey, let's fix this. Let's stop, the massive inflation of the US dollar. No, they want to continue that. That's why all of these nations are turning their back on the US. I mean, think about it. If it's the smart thing to do to challenge the US dollar, because if we don't, nothing's going to change. But also over here, and this is actually a big post. Big shout out to Daniel Beza for this. I'm going to put this into reading mode as it's a lot easier. A debt trap is when a country is forced to heavily resort to new debt issuance in the hopes of achieving economic growth. Unfortunately, such growth is not achieved, and the country resorts to even more debt to jumpstart GDP. The debt trap only worsens when the newly issued debt is not used for productive purposes that bring future economic benefits. So if the debt has a financial cost of 5%, the return on invested project must exceed cost of debt. Otherwise, it's non-productive debt. Consider this. Total global debt in 2000 was 62 trillion and GDP was 33.5 trillion. From 2000 to 2018, global economic growth rose from 33.5 trillion to 80 trillion, while total debt reached 247 trillion. This means that the world needed 185 trillion of global debt to achieve 46 trillion in economic growth. Ponzi? This is one thing that I also mentioned around, the 2008 financial crisis. I feel as though a lot of people thought that, we bounced back because, from that time period up until 2020 with the pandemic, everything seemed as though we were bouncing back. The big problem, right, is that the retail individuals that got wiped out never bounced back. And beyond that, nothing actually changed. If you actually look at this statistic alone, when we look at total debt versus GDP, nothing changed. They just heavily propped up the markets. They propped up the economy to make it look as though we bounced back. But in all actuality, banks got bailed out. We went right back to the, game of Monopoly that we kept playing, aka the Ponzi scheme of the fractional reserve banking system. And we carried on until things started to break. And 2020 was that, starting to break moment. And we have continued to break to now. It will only continue to break until things change. And that's where we're kind of at, right? We're at that point in time where we're looking at, what's going to happen? Are we just going to have another 2008? And if that is the case, are we just going to prop it up again and fake it? Or are we going to completely change everything? And that's where I'm at, right? I'm looking at things as though, we're not going to have another 2008. What we are going to have is a complete wipeout of the traditional system to usher in this new system. And it's going to be heavily dominated by DLT, blockchain-based technology, private ledger technology, and we're going to start to see tokenized, things of value, CBDC, stablecoins, things like that. And whether or not you believe that, that's okay. You don't have to. But all of the documentation from the organizations that do pull the strings around the global monetary system, they all have been hinting at it for the last roughly almost 10 years now. Debt productivity measured as GDP growth per additional dollar of debt has been showing alarming signs. Like any other factor, if debt is abused, its marginal benefit tends to go down. And here you could actually see that, and you could clearly see the downfall just from 2000. But do you see something very significant there? Look at 2000 and roughly almost 6 to 2009 on this chart on the bottom to up to 2020. Do you see how 2019 into 2020 was the big significant moment that showed us that things are now breaking heavily? Yeah, that's what I mean. Things were propped up until 2020. Also, when we go down here, we could have, i.e., if in soccer, a team can add one additional player and play with 12, this new player will have high marginal benefit for the team because he/she allows to run new plays and cover more ground. If the team adds 10 more players and plays with 21, this is not beneficial and turns to chaos. In the US in 1952, every $1 of new debt generated 80 cents of economic growth. As debt grew, the marginal productivity effect dropped to the point that by 2020, every $1 new debt generated 35 cents economic growth. If this does not worry you, nothing will. As marginal productivity plummets, this creates the vicious cycle that higher debt is needed to create increasingly lower GDP and so on. This is a debt trap. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome. And when we look at this, right, what is this all hinting at? Well, it's the fact that Janet Yellen is right. They are going to print us to 50 trillion by 2030. The question is that sustainable to anybody out there? And if we do that, that is going to cause a major implosion. And I feel as though that's their plan of action. They want to implode the system so that they usher in these new technologies and this new system. I mean, why else is every single central bank out there looking at CBDCs, looking at private ledger technology? The BIS, the central bank of central banks, is literally telling you their plan as well. Why? Because they know that this is their plan and has been their plan. But even if you go back to the dot-com bubble, guess what? It was the same exact thing. From around 85 to 88, this chart here started to slow. They propped the markets and they held the Ponzi up until the dot-com bubble burst. And then it dropped. And even it dropped all the way into 2008. Then we held the Ponzi yet again. We propped it up. Boom, 2020. And now I feel as though we are doing the same exact thing, waiting for the last major straw. We cannot continue on the way that we have been doing this, right? Like, this is not working. But we know that that's not their goal. We know that we are starting to see things change. Big shout out to Echo X, but also David Schnedeker for this. We have, this is speculation only and must be carefully evaluated. However, the connections mentioned here do make sense. I've been following Q, BRICS, US Debt Clock, and all of them for a very long time. What has been happening with the latter three recently has been direct information and hidden comms to prepare us for new asset-backed currency. The US Debt Clock secret window is no longer there. We will no longer be complicit in our slavery. We are changing the world for a better life for all. We cannot do this under the servitude of fiat currency controlled by men who want us weak and dead. And here we have a post by Echo X. And it's about 3 minutes and 20 seconds long. Big shout out to Echo X, by the way. Incredible individual. US Debt Clock unveiling the value of God's money. As we delve into USA Treasury certificates backed by tangible assets, a paramount question arises. What might be the potential value of gold and silver? And do you guys remember when we were speculating on the fact that, gold and silver and precious metals will be revalued? Yeah, I do think that this is when things start to change rapidly around gold and silver, but also around utility projects like XRP. Listen closely to this.
Could 1 ounce of gold be worth a whopping $177,500 and 1 ounce of silver be worth $17,750? I want to give a few shout outs to Patty and Mike Murray, along with Phoenix and Shane, for bringing this up to me. Now, as crazy as that sounds, the US Debt Clock has been hinting at us that we are going to go into a new form of currency, where we are going from the current fiat dollar over to new USA Treasury dollars. And from the information provided, the ratio looks to be 1,775 M2 fiat dollar to 1 USA Treasury dollar. With that being said, many people within the community have been trying to figure out what the true valuation is going to be for gold and silver. And with some of the images provided from the Debt Clock secret window, we might be able to speculate on what the possible price could be for the revaluation of gold and silver. This is the $100 JFK USA Treasury certificate, and this is a 1 ounce gold coin. The 1 ounce gold coin is said to be 100 USA Treasury dollars. And right in front of the new Treasury dollar is the 1964 JFK half dollar. This is supposed to be representing that Kennedy is replacing Ben Franklin, who is currently on the $100 Federal Reserve note, and he is also on pre-1964 half dollars. And here we have George Washington, who is currently on our $1 Federal Reserve note, who is going to be on the new $10 USA Treasury certificate. And you can notice that behind that certificate is a 1 ounce silver coin. That 1 ounce silver coin should equate to 10 USA Treasury dollars. And we all know that gold and silver is the truest form of money. Going back to God's ratio of 10 to 1, 10 ounces of silver to 1 ounce of gold. And if we are truly upgrading the financial system from the current fiat dollar to USA Treasury certificates, should 1 ounce of gold be valued at $177,500 and 1 ounce of silver be valued at $17,750. And if we do end up going to God's ratio 10 to 1, currently right now, gold to silver ratio is 88 to 1. And in my opinion, silver has been severely suppressed ever since the Coinage Act of 1873. And with all the money that's been printed throughout time and space, especially through the past few years, it really doesn't surprise me. And with the current US national debt being, let's just say, unsustainable and unhealthy, there's really limited options. So, in my opinion, I believe that we are going to be upgrading the system to a new form of currency that is asset backed. And you're going to see revaluations all across the board. This is why it is so important to know what you hold. Let's go.
Now, again, whether or not you believe this or not, it's okay. You don't have to. But one thing that I've been noting, especially for a while on the channel, is central banks buying gold at record pace. And remember, every single time that central bankers have been stockpiling gold like this, we see significant changes happening around the monetary system. Now, is that going to be a complete reset? Are we ushering into, a tokenized society? In my opinion, we've already been told that we are marching into a tokenized society. We already have been told that DLT, blockchain, all of this, it's the future. And the future is going to be coming at us fast, in my opinion, because, listen, we can't continue on with this fiat currency-backed system. It's not working. The proof is already there. The value of the dollar has dropped significantly over the last couple decades. The economy itself is not sustainable. And I have been watching the moves made by central bankers. I've been listening into the conferences where the central bankers are literally telling us what's happening. The IMF directors are telling us what they are planning. CBDCs, stablecoins, gold-backed currencies, tokenized assets, tokenization of everything of value. It's all happening. That's their overall plan. And these things start to move very fast once we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players going live with it. And when I'm talking about players, I'm talking about institutional players, asset management companies, big banks, you name it. And guess what? All the big banks, Citi, Bank of America, JP Morgan, the major ones, guess what they're all doing right now? They're all pioneering private blockchain-based technology. They're all tokenizing deposit tokens, things like that. And it's happening at a time where it seems as though the traditional financial system is going to melt down. And that's all pressure put on the shoulders of the traditional system that's going to crash it, implode it, wipe out the average individual that is not doing the research, not looking at, the things that matter, and not stockpiling gold, silver, crypto. Crypto has a very bad narrative in the real world. You talk to people outside of crypto that don't understand it. They think that's magical money. They think that's a scam. It's a Ponzi, things like that. While they are utilizing their dollar everywhere they go, they're saving their dollars in their bank account. That, guess what? It doesn't even have the reserves to back it because of the fractional reserve banking system. Yet crypto's a scam. Fiat currency isn't. Even though we pay taxes on money that is printed at a massive rate every single day. What's the actual Ponzi here? And what do you think is going to survive? Technology or inflated fiat currency backed by nothing? I'll let you do the math on that. But with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Also, if you guys do want to go check out an exclusive offer right now by NordVPN, this is for all of you watchers out there of the channel. They are doing a complete new deal. This is until March 20th of this year. It's a birthday deal that they are having for themselves. And you can save big and get 4 extra months free, but also an Uber Eats voucher. Guys, 2-year plan. You get the Uber Eats voucher. It's $2.91 a month. You get 4 months free. It's $81.36 for the first 2 years. And this does include the VPN, malware protection, tracker, and ad blocker. But they also have the ultimate, which is $5.48 a month with 4 extra months, for $153.36. And this also includes everything that I mentioned, but also they have a password manager, a data breach scanner, a 1 terabyte encrypted cloud storage, but also they include a $1 million in coverage for cyber protection benefit, and also cyber protection benefit for cyber extortion protection, which is up to $100,000 in coverage. So there's a ton that they have to offer. And right now, utilizing my link, you could save anywhere from $80 to over $150. So what are you guys waiting for? Go check it out. Links down in the description below, as well as in the comments below. And with that being said, guys, I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. You guys did definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.